Okay, so conversions for time. I find that a lot of learners don't know the basics. They really don't. And our time conversions are important that we know quickly and off the top of our head. So pop quizzes work beautifully. And you know what? You can even incentivize your learners. You can say, if everybody gets their question right, or whoever gets their question right, you get 5 minutes of free time at the end of the lesson. And it's simple questions. How many days in a year? How many days in the month of May? How many seconds in a minute? How many working days in a week? So those are the kinds of things that our learners should have at their fingertips. Next one, fractions of time. So learners often think that time is a decimal system. So 2,4 is 2 hours and 40 minutes. I'm sure that you have seen that time and time again. So we need to make sure that our learners know that we're working with fractions of a whole. And again, to have those conversions at their fingertips. What is a fraction of an hour? The fraction of the whole is 60 minutes. So a general formula, it's your decimal, your fraction of whatever your whole is, whether you're working in hours or days or minutes. Here's a nice challenge question for your strong learners. Convert all those seconds into days, hours, minutes, and seconds. So I don't suggest you do this in class because it takes quite a while. So give it to them for homework and see who's the brain of the week. You can see that it's a multi-step question where they need to keep converting, keep working in fractions, no rounding off to the end, and let's see how many can get to that. Okay, elapsed time. So elapsed time poses some issues with our learners, and if they can just remember these 4 things, work in columns, just like they did when they learned addition and subtraction in grade 2, it makes it easy, it's visual. Then our largest time is on top. So 4 minutes is greater than 1 minute. Then know your conversions. So if I'm converting from minutes to seconds, I need to know that there's 60 seconds in a minute. And then to borrow, just like they did when they worked with regrouping. So practice these kinds of exercises when they need to borrow. And again, whip out your 3-in-1 and you'll find lots of exercises there. This is a practice question that I have included in your resource pack that you can use. It's a marathon showing elapsed time, and you can see here we're asking our learners to do straightforward elapsed time, no borrowing, and then a borrowing question as well. Calendars and timetables. I think that our learners need a lot more exposure to this for familiarity, for feeling safe, for feeling confident. So why don't you, every time a timetable comes through via an email, or you're at a bus stop or in a train station and you see the timetables, whip out your phone, take a picture and share it. Show your learners. Your study timetables that come out from varsities. What about construction? Any kind of calendar or timetable. The more we expose our students, the better. And part of that exposure is helping them to work with tables and graphs for data handling. And they need to use keys. They need to read the whole question. They need to understand the information before they can even attempt to answer any questions. So have your conversions at your fingertips, and color pens are your best friend. So encourage them to highlight key information and to pull the data apart. So tides. This is the last little bit that I just want to share with you, is that there was a request that a lot of teachers aren't comfortable with it. So a basic definition, just for more your understanding and your teaching in class, according to the Oxford Dictionary, it's the alternate rising and falling of the sea, usually twice in a lunar day at a particular place, due to the attraction of the moon and the sun. Now the reason I've included that is because it highlights the typical features that you'll find in tide timetables. So rising and falling means we're going to have heights. Twice in each lunar day. Lunar is moon, and it's because there's an attraction of the moon and the sun, so you'll find moon and sun information. So to simplify it for learners, they need to know that they'll usually 2 high tides, 2 low tides each day. High tide means when the water is at its highest, low tide when the water is at its lowest. And there are many, many different kinds of tide timetables. I've chosen to show you this one because it's clean and straightforward, but there are obviously a lot more complicated ones because it highlights the typical features. So you'll have your days, your time. So there, that's the day we're looking at. It'll tell you your high tide, your low tide. You can see we have 2 in a day. They'll tell us the heights. High tide, the highest height. Low tide, the lowest height. Because it has to do with the attraction of the sun and the moon, you can see that they've given us sunrise and moonrise. And often on these, although it's not shown here, they'll show you the phases of the moon. So with our tide timetable, typical questions that you'll find is identify the date and time, write down the time in different time formats, so you can do your 24-hour clock, calculate your elapsed time from high tide to low tide. What is the difference in time? There can be questions related to sunrise and moonrise. Then conversion of the height, excuse me. So, had a tickle there. Our sunrise, our moonrise, and the phase of the moon. This is a practice question from our book, and it's a different tide timetable that can also be used.
If you found this video useful, give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any new episodes. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook to stay on top of the latest TAS news and launches. So that's it for now from the Answer Series, your key to exam success.